John, I appreciate you sitting down with me, having a conversation like many other conversations we've had about learning.
Yes.
Starting back where we worked together at T-Mobile, there were some great things that we were talking about then, and I just want to talk to you a little bit about how you got from there as kind of a thought leader in an organization to an entrepreneur.
Sure. Yeah. Well, it's an interesting path. I'll say it like that. Yeah, as you know, when we were talking back at those times, we saw kind of that shift in learning going on from kind of that tried and true formal learning environment to kind of more informal learning, gamification, especially mobile.
Right.
People wanted things that way. So you had that opportunity coming from sales, being in the sales when we were working together in the learning and development department, running that organization, that really saw there was an opportunity to make a difference. I have a love for sales. I have a love for employee development and learning and development. Yeah. And bringing those two together kind of in an application focused on salespeople, I thought was an outstanding opportunity, the right time in the market. So decided to take the plunge, and here we are with Saltbox a year plus later.
So you guys just kind of came to market. You just released your product a few months ago?
Yeah, we've been at it. We've actually got private beta customers coming aboard now, and getting some great feedback from the salespeople on the learning tool. So it's really kind of an exciting time for us in the business aspect of it all.
Yeah. What I like about what you've been doing is, and you mentioned this before, and I think you were really good at it back in the day when we were working together, is listening, right? Listening is a really important part of process of learning. Yeah. You're responding to some things, some conversations that you've had with people about what they want when it comes to learning, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you were around when we were talking about some of these things. We had a conference in Vegas when we brought people in from the front line out there, and when you ask them what salespeople really want to learn from, and you really kind of do that data gathering of what is important to them, what types of things they want, what types of content, and they want it on their mobile device.
Right.
We call it what they want to know, when they want to know it, how they choose to learn it. Really was the focus and the impetus behind Saltbox, is build it from that standpoint up, and then of course build in a little bit of that fun functionality that corporations like around quizzes and testing and reporting, but really design it from that perspective.
So, I mean, do you think some people are afraid to ask those questions of their learners, right? I mean, are they afraid that they're not, they're going to have to change everything maybe, or?
Yeah, well, I think there's a couple things going on in the industry right now that have been happening for just a little while. And that is really, if you look at from a bottoms-up approach and a tops-down approach, I think there's some things that need to evolve, and there's some challenges in the marketplace out there right now. From a bottoms-up approach, I think that you're looking at people that are in a traditional mode creating content. So my job has been to create solid content, whether that's interactive or gamification or things that become modules. That is content, what I call creation, right?
Right.
Pretty standard industry term. I think the challenge there that is a lot of people are looking for more content curation. So if you talk about, we at Saltbox talk about sales learning at the speed of business.
Right.
And the speed of business, when you have so much information available out there to you, and there's a product review about your product or a product review about your competitor or an article in the Wall Street Journal, for instance, someone in learning and development or communications needs to curate that content.
Yeah.
Use it as a learning tool to add some things to it, and then get it out to the field via computer or mobile device, typically with salespeople these days.
So salespeople don't normally sit around in the office too much, do they?
You hope not. If you've got salespeople, unless they're telemarketing, then you want them in their seats. But yeah, if you look at retail, they're out on the floor, right? If you look at B2B, they're on the move between appointment and appointment. So for them, that just-in-time information is important. So if they may be in between clients, for instance, and there's breaking news or something happens with their competition, they need to know that. Because you better believe their customers are reading it. Their customers are at their desks. Their customers are researching the competition. The customers are preparing for that visit from the salesperson, so they have all their intelligence. And the smart salesperson wants to know what the actual customer is reading. So it's just that just-in-time.
Right. I think salespeople are the perfect first adapters to this concept in learning. I think they have their own motivation. They're usually self-driven, and they have some very specific goals, and that success, their success depends on what they know, right?
Yes.
So that's why this type of learning works for them.
Yeah, in a couple different ways. And I think you hit on a good point. I mean, salespeople, and why we focused in this area in the first place, I think is really on the cutting edge of kind of this informal learning and social learning by nature.
Right.
So where do salespeople learn? They learn from their peers, they learn from their customers, and they learn typically by scouring the internet for all of that information that's out there that's going to help them differentiate themselves and find those nuggets of information that are out there. So they're by nature, they actually do it that way, which is kind of interesting. And then the other thing about salespeople too is they like snippets of information, right? So if you think about time is money, it's an old cliche, so to speak. But if I only have limited time to learn, I need to know a couple of pieces of information, or I have time to learn in that micro learning,
right?
The snippets, and that's important to them as well. And that's perfect for this kind of informal, social, nugget-sized learning that you can do, especially over mobile phones. And that's where the exciting thing is the mobile phone aspect of it.
Yeah, I like that. And because you've given me a couple of peeks at your product, and I'm really excited about it. I'm jazzed. And
Thanks.
One of the things I liked about it is that you can dig deeper. So there's layers, right? And like you're saying, there's that snippet, right? And then if you want a little bit more, you can go a little deeper to learn a little bit more. And I guess that it kind of depends on how your day's going or what's going on with you as a salesperson.
Yeah.
How much time you have to devote to this personal development stuff. So.
Yeah, it's all about creating a personal learning environment, right? So if I need things that I would normally access off the web, or I would get behind even some things that corporations put out, that I need access to, if I can create this personal learning environment that allows me to get a couple snippets here and there. And then when I have time to dig a little deeper and want to read more on it, or go and check with my peers on some things, then I have the capability to spread out because I have some more time to do that. So it's really making sure that people have choice.
Yeah. So it's not really just about what's created internally in the company from the instructional designers or the learning development folks. So I like the fact that you guys are allowing people to bring in content that's out there in the wild, so to speak, and share that within their organization.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned companies earlier, and I think that's part of the evolution and the shift, that content creation versus curation, which I mentioned just a second ago. But it really is. There's great content out there, and a learning and development department to support, say, Salesforce enablement, right, needs to figure out, hey, how do I get some of the information in the wild into that person's personal learning environment? And with our tool, that's one of the ways to do it. But it allows them to select, or it allows a company to actually import some of that stuff from the public sphere, so to speak, and do that. But I think to your point, as in the industry, though, and especially taking this mobile, there's a lot that has to change inside of companies to kind of facilitate what I think is called Salesforce enablement now, but what salespeople really are looking for when it comes to that sales training.
Excellent. So in your conversations you've been having with people in the last several months, how do you feel people are responding? Because to me, in my opinion, I think there's been these conversations inside organizations, but they're not really sure how to take that first step. They don't know exactly how to approach informal learning and how to bring this into their organization and still maintain a little bit of control or have a hand in it, rather than just saying, okay, everybody go to Twitter, right? or whatever, right? So
bring in Twitter, and stuff like that. Good products, but
they're relevant. But what do you think? What are people? How are people responding to that? Bringing them a tool that allows them to have that connection with what's happening out there, and also having a little bit of control on what's happening internally.
Yeah, I think that it's about change management again. I think that you're hitting it right on. There's a desire to do it. So I think the first thing is people know that things need to change. I think that there's a lot of people that are trying to figure out what does that mean and how do I do it. So we've got some very bright people in the learning and development industry. And if you break out millennials and Gen X and all of those different types out there, they're used to things that allow them kind of that consumer prize, right? Which is, hey, it's got to be as easy as Twitter, or it's got to be easy as using an iPhone or something of that sort, right? Very much friendly like that. So the good news is we've got people kind of infiltrating companies that are bringing that. I grew up on that content. I think the challenge becomes from a learning and development perspective is how do you change a little bit of how you operate to that just-in-time mentality versus the just-in-case mentality. Typically, what that means inside of a larger organization especially is you may have marketing influence or legal influence, and they create something that is just in case someone asks, here is the content. And what I call that is like volume of content. So there's this volume of things that they want pushed, and please don't push it through a mobile device, but here it goes. So I think that people are starting to adapt to, from going from that kind of position, how do I get my partners that are asking me to do some things in there? That's one, I think, key area is how people ask, well, how do we get leadership involved? I think the other thing that leadership needs to do is break the paradigms that they're used to. And the paradigms they're used to is typically, again, here's a volume of information, go out, train on it, and report back on it. And some of the things that they're measuring may not be the most effective things that they're measuring out there. So it's both.
Absolutely.
Both areas from the bottoms up and the tops down.
So my observation, and maybe you can help me with formulating this opinion, is that organizations need to shift a little bit in their relationships within the organization. Are there better connections between the departments, legal, marketing, and other parts of the IT, right? Bringing all those people together, not just learning and development or being in that bubble. How do you think tools like yours really facilitate that and provide opportunity there?
Well, I think there's a couple of things there. And before I get into the tool, is I think that this is a unique opportunity, and you see a lot out there right now. Where does learning and development fit in the organization? There's a lot of discussion around learning development in the HR organization, or is the learning development department really supposed to be in the field, and so it all over. But what I think the opportunity out there, which is so neat about the learning development organizations these days, is that they have an opportunity to play in different spaces. And what I mean by that is, they can create some content, but they also can be a great distribution or communication channel for that just-in-time learning and keep people competent and up to speed. And I think there's a little bit of shift there. How our tool does it, to answer your question, is we've enabled channels inside the tool that if the learning and development department uses our tool, it's great. They can allow, say, communications, a channel to distribute some of those just-in-time communications, or distribute breaking news, or leadership messages, or anything like that that would help the salesperson or help understand the direction they're going. And we've enabled that so they have the ability to do it pretty much on demand. So you do it, you put it in the system, it shows up on the device. So we've really tried to kind of create a center for multiple parts of an organization to contribute to Salesforce enablement or the salespeople's learning and development in a real, and like I said before, it's really at the speed of business. And you're going to need different departments, learning and development, communications, sometimes legal, sometimes it might be your competitive department or your competitive group inside a particular organization.
So community, a little bit. You're helping facilitate a community within an organization. Yeah,
I think so. And I want to be careful about creating. Some people actually call them communities, communities of learning and things of that sort. And I think that what's important is you have to put stuff in context. I think that we've had historically some very good companies do things around content management systems, or maybe even learning management systems, and they say, here's where all your content is stored, and recently they've bolted on social. So they've said, which is, hey, now we have social features on our content management system or learning management system. But in context, the reality is if I'm a salesperson and I'm moving around, I'm typically not going to want to go into my learning management system or content management system to have a discussion about something specific. So what you really have to do, and companies are starting to do, is really go where the salespeople are. So if they're used to using Twitter to chat, if they're used to following specific blogs, or they're used to talking to their peers or following their customers or industry through things, then what you need to do is bring all that into an environment for them that they're used to, versus, and that's in context. It's learning in context where I can check it out. And that's what we really try to do, is make sure they have that tool to create their personal learning environment in context.
Excellent. Well, I totally appreciate you sitting down with me, and I'm looking forward to seeing how things go for you in the next few months. I know you're having some good conversations with potential clients right now, and that's exciting. I'm looking forward to hearing the success stories.
Yeah, great, Jeff. And as always, good to speak with you again. All right. And I look forward to continuing to work with you.
All right, thanks.
All right, thanks, Jeff.
Appreciate it.